everyone, and welcome to a new series on the channel called Industries Fights. Now, I want to make this series because I know that everyone is stuck at home. I'm even stuck at home, and I got nothing to do, so I thought, why not start a new series on the channel? So, here in this series, I want to talk about two big companies each episode and say about their games, talk about their games, their movies, and their history in general. And today's fight will be again with Marvel against DC. So enjoy the show, stay safe home, and enjoy the video. So, first off, I want to talk about games. Games are a very important part of an industry or a company because they let the viewers and players interact with that universe. And Marvel and DC are pretty equal in movies and games, but some are better than others. For example, DC has a lot of good games. For example, Batman the Arkham games, Injustice, DC Universe Online, and I could go on because there's a lot of them. You have where to choose from. And they have good quality, they have good stories, from my opinion, and a lot of good voice actors like Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. But Marvel, on the other hand, doesn't really have that many famous video games. It does have famous video games, but not as much as DC. For example, there was Marvel Spider-Man, which came out in 2018. There were a lot of Spider-Man games which were amazing at the time they were made, but right now they aren't really as good as when they came out because technology has improved a lot. So yeah, Marvel isn't that much known for its games. There will be an Avengers game coming out this year, I believe in September, which I'm gonna play on the channel. And yeah, so the games again are a very important part, and some of them are really bad and some of them are really good, but I think that this time DC does it better just because it has more iconic voice actors and better stories, in my opinion. Spider-Man has had a good story as well, but I honestly like DC more in this case. So next up we have movies, and let's start with Avengers. Avengers has a lot of movies. A lot of movies came out, and a lot of movies are to come out. There was Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Black Widow's coming out alongside Morbius. We had some R-rated movies as well, like Deadpool and Deadpool 2. Doctor Strange was a good one, and we had the classics like The Avengers and Thor, Iron Man, all of that. So I think it's a very good base for movies. And DC also has some good movies like The Dark Knight Rises. Both of them. Sorry about that. It also has a lot of animated movies, which I love. I think they're great. I love that animation, and I love the voice acting. And it also has some good live action movies, more or less, because Aquaman was a very good one, but the Justice League not so much, because it just didn't feel right. It's not what the people had in mind when they talk about Justice League. So I think this time Marvel wins, which makes it 1-1 for each company. But next up is history. Okay, so for history, I'm not gonna give any points because history is something that happens and you can't really control it, so it's not their fault. I just want to do this so that you guys know better about them. So Marvel, of course, Stan Lee was a big part of Marvel, alongside John Nee, which was the publisher, and it was branded in 1939 by Martin Goodman, and it had a lot of great comics at the time because it was new. Back then comics didn't have a lot of color. There were some black and white comics, but Marvel made them a lot better by adding a lot of color and Stan Lee coming up with a lot of great stories. Of course, Amazing Fantasy was a good one. Amazing Fantasy 1, which presented Spider-Man, and of course the Avengers. Then after the comics came the movies, and it all kind of got in together, and it worked out very nicely for them. It's amazing what one man can do, what man can start. And for Detective Comics, we had, of course, Batman and Robin, which were, at the time there was only Batman, but later on came Robin. So for comics, they were really good as well, but back then they weren't as famous as Marvel. Even though it came before Marvel in 1937, it wasn't as popular, and it also had a lot of good characters, good stories. Justice League, Batman, The Flash, and then later on came the shows. The first live-action Batman show wasn't that good, I gotta admit. With the costumes that were drawn, that wasn't good, I gotta say. But after that, they learned from their mistakes, and they really did some good things. They did Batman the Animated Series, which I'm actually watching right now because I wanna go through the history, and a lot of other great series, movies, etc. So it wasn't, DC's history isn't that good as Marvel's because they didn't have luck, but it's still, both of the companies are great still. Okay, so for the ending of this video, I know it's short, I'm now getting the hang of it. I'm gonna have a conclusion about Marvel and DC, because it's been such a long debate which is better. So here's my opinion. I think that DC is better regarding games and sometimes movies, but it's not as colorful, should I say, as Marvel, and it has some tough times. The comics had a lot of blood, some of them in it, which makes them more serious, which makes them not for everyone. It's not such a nice thing to see in the comics, someone die shot, or some little kid's parents shot in front of him. And Marvel, on the other hand, doesn't have that many good games. It had some, but not as memorable as, let's say, the Arkham games. But it had a lot of movies, and I don't recall any movie from Marvel that I hated. I loved all of Marvel's movies. When I was a kid, I used to always watch them every day on repeat because I love them. And yeah, so my personal opinion is that I like DC more just because it doesn't include that many superpowers and makes it more realistic, and I'm a realistic guy. So I like DC regarding comics and games, but I gotta give it to Marvel for movies, since they also have a lot of emotion, drama, a lot of that stuff. And yeah, this was the first video of this series. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what should I do next, or if I should stop this series, or if you liked it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.